Because I missed it yesterday, so
Okay.
it didn't so good.
Sam, would you please pray for us?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning to say thank you for your love and your mercy and your grace that's made it for us. Lord, we ask you to watch over us and guide us by your Spirit. So the council and all the department heads and leaders here, Father God, and watch over our first responders, Lord, as we know that they're extremely busy. And Lord, we just ask you to help us with the decisions, help the council make the decisions we have to make for the betterment of this whole entire county. Forgive us for what we've done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, where do we want to go first?
We're going to jump right into wages. So, I don't know how much you tuned in yesterday, but we had made some wage decisions in the morning. We want to make sure that everybody is at 75% of, or what we call 75% of that gap for the wage study, okay? Most everybody was at midpoint, which was 50%, so we're doing an increase there.
Plus
How-
2% COLA.
Right, however, there are certain positions, and you have several, that are beyond even the high point, or beyond the midpoint anyway. So if we didn't take any other action, they'd be flat. So what we also did is we did a 2% COLA. So anybody that didn't get anything otherwise through the study is going to get an increase anyway, no matter where they're at currently. So we did the math, we've got all the numbers plugged in, and that's the first thing we need to enter into these budget sheets, if you are okay to follow along with that, okay? So, yes?
The other quick note is we have your distributions for 2025. This year you were making 280 or 564 a month. Next year you will be maybe 296, 740 a month. It's an increase of 81.84.
Yeah, your total public safety distribution for us is going to be $3,560,992. And as you know, that goes straight into funding 1170. And that's good. That's, it's nice to have that number. It did grow. Looking at preliminary numbers, you're going to be close. So it's doable. It's doable overall. We just want to make sure we fine-tune the detail. So something to shoot for. All right, so elected official pay, we already know what that is from July 1st. That's probably going to change mid-year, next year. But we usually just budget what we know, and then we'll do the additional later. So that's at $110,108. And then for regular wages, I'm just going to run through this. We've got all full-time individuals that are not the chief deputy or the jail commander, because they're in a different line item, okay? So everybody that's full-time, whether it's jailers, the cook, the matron, the secretary, your road deputies, all those full-time individuals are in regular wages. And that's going to be $1,573,790. Now, regular salary has two of your positions, chief deputy and jail commander, because they're salaried. And that number is $164,169. Skipping down to part-time, that's going to be 0, because This year, we had changed the cook position from part-time to full-time. So that wage is already in the regular wages line item, just so you know that. So part-time should be 0. Now skipping back up to holiday benefits, we took all the new figures, the new wage base figures, and then we have a holiday pay benefit that's based on that. Next year is a non-election year, so there's 12 holidays times 8 hours worth of holiday pay to figure out. So we come up with $59,574. It's going to zigzag every year because on the election year, like this year, it's higher because we pay for 14 holidays instead of 12 because there's 2 election days in there. So it is okay to be less. It's also going to be a little different because of the employees you have and longevity and things like that. So, and that includes jailers, and that includes your road deputies that aren't salaried. So those are all in there. Okay. Overtime feeds into all this. And it looks like you had just a little bit of an estimated increase for that. Is that okay, or is that too much, not enough?
I think it's,
Go ahead. No, you're right.
I think it's okay to kind of project with that number.
We've got 78,930 in there.
Yeah.
I guess all else being equal, if you have the same demand on overtime hours, just because of wages, you're going to see an increase in overtime, right? So, looks like you're requesting that 78,930, so we're going to leave that the way it is.
Yeah, we're hopefully starting 2025 with full staff,
Okay.
as opposed to last year where we were down 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Which was increasing. our
So you're
overtime
using more
exponentially.
at that time. Okay. So that's good.
Sorry, what was that number again? 78?
78,930. All right, and then that puts us to FICA, which is the tough one, because not everything goes into that. So to confirm who all's eligible for FICA, we've got the matron, the secretary, the cook, and all the jailers. Take that back, I'm talking perf.
That's what I thought.
Yes,
I was-
perf.
You had me confused there.
Perf, yes.
Yeah, we don't pay FICA on
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're not doing any social security, right? Perf is what we're after here. So I've got, add this up here. That's the one figure I didn't get done. All right, so we got all the jailers, the matron, secretary, the cook. Is there anybody we're missing from FICA, or PERF, from PERF? All right, so I'm coming up with 66,000. Oh, one moment. Let's see here. All right, 82,429. Need to make sure our holiday benefits are in there because that qualifies, and then the overtime as well. So that makes the difference. That's what I'm missing there. So 82,429. And then for FICA, we're taking all of the jailers, also the matron, and the cook, And then we're taking holiday benefits for jailers.
So, on FICA, I mean, the rest of them are not, I mean,
Well, the only ones that are not FICA are the ones that qualify for police retirement.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's basically.
don't? Okay.
Yeah, that's their retirement source, not,
Social Security.
why am I mixing perf and
I
FICA?
know, that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
FICA is.
I tell you, it's too early in the morning. Diane and I were here at 5 a.m. waiting for the door to be unlocked, so, no. So, anyway, so yeah, that does make it a lot easier. We did the difficult one first, so that's good. Okay, thank you. I tell you.
We're not used to you making a mistake
Man,
there. Ian.
man, I tell you,
Somebody get any kind of
I'm
coffee?
getting older. All right. FICA's everybody. We got the sheriff, the chief deputy, the jail commander, all of your full-time, all of the part overtime, except deputies. So let's, oh yeah. 151,973. That makes sense. All right. And that pretty much takes care of wages. The only other thing is, kind of connected to that, is the police retirement. That is in the sheriff's part of the general fund, and I would suspect we're just going to keep that there. Typically, it's going to be what's recommended minus the tax warrant and civil processing fee revenue. So do we have the letter? We usually get a letter every year from the actuary identifying the target amounts to budget for that. Do we have a letter this year?
Is that what I said?
We might. Let me go get it. Let me go get what I got from them.
Sometimes they'll send it.
Because I don't remember seeing the paper that they sent in the past.
So we'll come back to that because we want to do the math and then figure that in. All right. And then while we're on the subject of sheriff general fund, the only other line item there is the rotation of vehicles. And what amount did you want for that?
Well, it was a progression for the 3 years because you're getting 3 leases, so you were looking at, what was the first one, 80?
316.
This would be the 3rd year for the leases.
Okay.
I believe we're looking at around 240 for the 3rd year. There will not be leases next year.
We're hitting our plateau here after
Right.
that.
Yeah, this is the 3rd year. There will be no leases next year. Then the following year will be replacing the 1st-year leases,
All right, so you said 240?
I believe.
So it's not the 331, 316 then?
That is the police retirement line. We're talking about the
No, it's
rotation
under-
of vehicles
It's, unless it's,
in the general fund.
I know, but
Yeah.
here. I mean, that's what I've got.
Well, it'd be this line right here. Those are swapped for some reason. That should be there and that should
Okay.
be there.
Okay.
Yeah. Same line items, just different order. All right, so we have lease number 1, year 3, lease number 2, year 2, and lease number 3, year 1. That's what we're budgeting for.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So 240,000 for that. And at the moment, police retirement will just have to come back.
Let me make sure that's right.
Okay.
He's good.
Because didn't you end up getting a better deal recently
We
on
did.
this year 2?
We did. They were not going to reproduce the 2024 Rams, so they had a whole bunch of 23s And then they decided, well, we are going to produce the 24 Rams, so we need to get rid of all these 23s. And we were able to find.
I heard you got a deal.
Yeah, it was significant.
So maybe we need to
got
lower
those
this a
instead
little
of the Durangos because they were cheaper.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know where we're going to be this year. John Jones is a pain in the butt. They make a phenomenal package. They put everything together, and it's great and easy to work with when there's a problem, but they're a pain. I don't know where we're going to be with that. So we did go this week to a venue up at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy with vehicles. We'll see where it leads. We're still going to try to find
Other
the
options.
best deals that we can,
Yeah.
but they've just gone up in price so significantly. It's unreal how much vehicles have went up in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Insane.
So our lease number 2, or I should say our most recent for this year, you got a little better deal than you thought.
Yes.
So I guess this 240 maybe needs to be a little bit less because our middle lease is less than what we thought.
I don't know. I don't want to say that because then this next lease may be more because of inflation. So if we take it off, then we may be in a pickle.
And the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because this is a part of the general fund.
Right.
We have a limited amount of money there too.
I'm clear.
And, there's a big difference between putting 240 versus 230, or 225, that kind of thing. So, if we can get it fairly accurate, that would be good.
I think that's correct.
I think it's correct.
240? Just leave it at 240? All right. And then, while we're on the subject of wages, can we go to security then and get those numbers plugged in? And, so we've got 2 full-time positions here, and that goes into regular wages. That's $119,899. And then we have part-time. We do have kind of 2 positions, but it's a pool of hours that you manage. And that's going to be $57,230. FICA is $13,550. And the 2 full-time positions, they are on the police retirement program, so there's no perf in this budget. The only other line item was $1,500 for uniforms, so the total was $192,179. $192,179 for court.
Was that 118, 199
What was that?
for the 2 full-time, 118, 999, is that what you said?
$119,899.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that takes care of all the wage stuff, Madam President.
We can discuss that on how it would work. I don't know if they want to address it now or just get the numbers and then look at how it's divided later.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, there we go.
Oh, we found out.
No,
Sorry.
because Stephen,
Do
Stephen.
you want it right now? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's actually less than it has been. I think we have some deputies drop off of it. So The recommended county contribution is 307,729.
$526.
And then there's also an
Each.
accelerated funding as well. I don't know if you guys know that.
How much is that?
359,147.
So if we do the recommended amount, 307,729, and then we look at the tax warrant and the civil process revenue, what are those revenue amounts? Sheila?
What I can give you is the old,
Okay.
again, we can't get into a lot of.
I know that in
I think this
'24,
was the year, right?
the note was 13,000 from tax warrant and 20,000 from civil process fees. So that was for when we were putting this budget together last year. So it's probably not gonna be more than that, but the big thing is it less? Have those fees been lower than usual, on track?
Tax warrant balance is 10,581, showing this year, they've only brought in $1,463.
So only 1,400 for this year on tax warrants. Civil processing fee.
You know the phone number? What funding?
For what?
Where the civil process fees are deposited in the tax warrants.
Project income. So different ones. And the sheriff's project, the NYD number, sheriff's tax warrant, sheriff pension. Sheriff process fee, retirement.
So why don't we, for now, put the recommended amount anyway, just the full amount there. We know that maybe that'll be a little less when we figure the other two revenue offsets, and we can adjust that number later. How's that sound? So we'll put in 307,729.
So what happens if new people come in and want it? Would that then be an additional appropriation that they would have to do?
It's always, the challenge is always kind of in arrears because they're estimating what the contribution needs to be based on not only the payroll side from the previous, year, but also the performance of the retirement fund and that kind of thing. The age of, I'm sure they look at the age and retirement eligibility of the members, and then they come up with that number. So it's always going to be, if we were to add, Debbie, if something changed or someone retired, I'm sure that next year's number would then reflect that. As long as they have something documented that they're recommending to us and we follow that, I think we're good for this particular situation. It's just the offset that we want to kind of hammer down and be conservative with, so. All right, so at the moment, the total for the sheriff's part of the general fund with the vehicle rotation and the sheriff retirement is $547,729. And you can go through the rest of them there. We can follow up later on that. We don't have to worry about it at the moment.
Do we want to go through the 1170?
Go ahead, yeah.
On the rest of the
Mhm.
items?
You want to go by, through line by line?
You want to go line by line on the 1170 fund, or? A lot of increase, but except for uniforms. Yeah,
Yeah, too bad uniforms, kind of.
Speaking of uniforms, we'd like to change the process where each officer has an allowance per year. It would be their own responsibility to make sure their uniforms are upkept. And that allowance would be given out either yearly or twice a year, just to, one, it would still be an allowance, so it would be tax exempt, but then it would be on their own responsibility and just added to their salary instead of coming out of us.
Yeah, I wouldn't commingle it with salary,
Right, I was gonna say,
but I
then you
would,
would have to
if there is
pay taxes.
an amount, stipend or something that you can give, that's for your uniforms, take it. That would probably be a way to do that, if that's, yeah. Yeah, how much per person, how would you
Well,
structure that?
$526 a year per deputy. If you take the amount that we currently get and divide that amongst the number of people that we have, obviously it's still the department's responsibility for ballistic vests,
Yeah,
and those are every 5 years they have to be replaced, and that's under Indiana statute. So we would not be able to, we would not expect them to use that for their
Right.
ballistics.
so you have 20,000 in that line item for uniforms, and we can keep it there, but the method is what's gonna change.
Right.
And so you're thinking 526 per year per, are we talking road deputies and jailers? Or are we talking just road deputies? Or a different amount for both?
I would say just the deputies, they go through them quicker than anybody else, just due to the nature of in and out of the vehicles,
Sure.
physical confrontations, all of those things.
And you're talking,
What's that?
That's what I got, yeah.
So that'd be,
There still should be that 527 every, if you wanted to split it into 2 payments.
there's 17
527 twice a year.
plus chief plus sheriff. So there's 17, what I would call like road deputies, the chief, and the sheriff. That's 19 individuals. Now, court security, you're not counting those
They have
two?
their own.
Okay. So, we're talking 19 individuals.
Right.
And they would get how much per year?
It would be 526 twice a year. So it would,
Twice a year, okay.
right, because
so
it's the cost.
1,052.
1,052.
1,052.
All right. Well, that, I think that comes out
Yeah, it
to
does.
pretty much that, so.
I think that's very generous.
In 1170.
Military, they take it out of their pay.
Yeah, you get well,
Yeah.
it's been a while since I've been in, we would get an allowance per year for uniforms, but then, and that was just added to our normal salary.
I just know when my boys were in BMT that they took it out of their pay, so they didn't
We
really
did
get
that
it.
at the beginning, yes. Once we were in and we were active, then it came out, you were
Yeah.
given an allowance per year. Usually didn't spend it on that, but that's okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and put 19,988 in there, which is 1,052 per year per deputy. Yeah,
Say 19.9.
19,988. So we saved $12. Thank you for helping us out. All right.
Pinch pennies.
Can we get that $12 in?
Well, we can move it to utilities, okay. The only other thing that changed up above that was supplies. Went from 6 to 7. Yeah.
Gas, oil, and lube, but that's self-explanatory.
Will you guys be filling out those claims for those individuals in your normal claim cycle when you come in, or you like that?
So that's something we need to discuss and figure out how that process will work.
So it would still go through claims, you would just have to have John turn in regular claims for whoever the individual is. You can process them all at one time, so you're not 3 months in, somebody saying, I need this or this or this, if that's what you're giving them, then in January and July, I would say that, or June and December, whichever, so that you're only doing it.
Yeah, the idea is they get the money and you guys never see claims from uniform distributors, that's all they go pay for. So since they're giving the money, they go pay for it.
Yeah. They're the ones buying
I
it,
would say
so.
January, June then. So then they've got it up front and then they know that they can maintain their uniforms for 6 months and then in June
Yep.
put it back out. And then, obviously just file it as a claim.
Okay.
Different, but I think that'll work.
So one claim per employee,
Yes.
and then just do them all, January and June.
All right, that's great. Nope, that's good. Supplies, 7 versus 6. Just happens, right? Higher cost. Everything else is the same. We do have the earmark for the jail project, and we
Got
talked.
the other services and charges there.
Correct, yeah. And we had set this amount as kind of the last number in the budget to bring the total to something that matches revenue. I mean, I can tell you from the insurance figures further down that we're going to be over the revenue estimate by, 100, 150,000. But I wouldn't necessarily lower this because we know that costs are only going up, and on the project side, it would just short us a little bit there. So I would keep that the way it is for now. Earmark that again. We don't have exact numbers anyway yet on loans and
The
that
copy
kind of
machine
thing.
lease agreement, is that the one that's going back in or is that different?
That could be, but they're their own funding source, so I don't know if you want to put that on general.
So earmarking, there was an amount that was put in there this year, there's only been a couple of claims that came out, and it was for the appraisals. We're gonna have to either pull them out and put them in a totally separate fund, that what is earmarked, or we definitely are gonna have to remember every January, we're increasing that line item amount. If that's still sitting in that cash balance, I want to make sure that it's not appropriated for anything else.
Correct.
Because you're appropriating out of that cash balance, and if you remember,
Yeah.
He's had to come back, unfortunately, for additional appropriations. The cash balance is there, but we're moving into like reserve.
How can we make sure that that is totally separate then?
I would just put it in a separate
Yeah.
fund.
Okay.
I would say
You can create a new fund for
We
that?
have to do, I think, to keep everything straight, I would say,
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
an ordinance or resolution that you're creating the marked amounts into a separate fund. That way, he already knows, always will know what his cash balance is.
Yeah, I
And
think,
not have to go
that's
back
very
and
Yeah,
important.
and separate that out.
So can we make that happen? I'm going to make a motion that we proceed with ordinance or resolution to take the earmark for the current budget year and get that, do what we need to do to get that money physically moved, spent from here and into a separate fund for us to save for the jail project.
Is there a second? Second by Steve. Motion made by Anton. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Motion carried. Good.
Because we don't want the cash to roll over unspent, and then we forget about it, and then the
Right.
next year we have to
And
do
you'll have to add up
600,000.
every year, every time you want
That's
to know what your
just-
cash
yeah.
balance is.
That's just difficult, it's easier, so. All right,
That's in contract services currently.
So we don't want to go
I
ahead
don't
and
know where
move
we've
these
been,
agreements.
so that discussion we
Is
had
that
the
right?
other day on, with accident.
I guess it's just preference on, normally when we're talking those kind of things, we try to keep them in their silos. But, this budget is gonna be over revenue.
We have to do that now. I think we
You
can
know,
wait till we
if
get
you were to
the-
take that out, how much are we talking here?
I'm not sure
Oh,
how much,
4,000.
we can't give them a number.
Do you just move the 4,000 over and just save that back and put that in the general fund?
Were we basically doing the lease to make it easier or, moving from each department into the commissioners just to make it easier to pay out of, or were we?
On the two shooters.
Yeah.
On the contract, they would come out of there too, again, we have to get on a bill or.
Yeah, so, we were basically doing that for ease for the auditors. So, do we want to do that again?
We're added all the others, so.
Okay, so we'll zero that, and then Sheila is gonna keep her list and include that on there for the sheriff. Okay. All right, medical prisoners, that's
That's going up.
gone up.
I believe that's going to 142 is what I believe that the,
142?
not what the email said. Wasn't that the email that we got?
145?
Was it 145?
That's what's in the budget sheet.
Okay.
But, okay.
I trusted.
That includes some of the previous action we took, adding in, wasn't there a little bit of a mental health or a nursing? There was some kind of component we added a couple of years ago. That's been continued, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you had asked me if that was a per inmate. It is not per inmate. It is a flat fee of the service.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so that's not
Okay.
based on the number of inmates that you have. It's just a flat fee.
Okay. All righty.
So on liability insurance, there's nothing there.
Yeah, liability insurance, there does need to be a figure in there. And we are figuring 112%. So 12% increase over 2024's number. We're going to tweak those once we know a little bit more on the actual premiums and stuff. But based on the 24 number, the new one will be $221,051. And then
Group insurance.
group insurance, we had to take an increase on that. It's $9,015 per employee cost. And thinking about positions, pull up my list here. We've got 17 regular deputies, matron, secretary, cook, sheriff, chief deputy, and then on the jail side, we have 12. I've got 34 full-time positions. And I think that jives because we had 33 for the current budget year and we had changed the cook. So 34 times 9,015. So that's $306,510. And then workers' comp, again, a 12% increase, 79,414. So, at the moment, if you figure the revenue estimate of $3,560,992, and you take the budget amount of $3,648,817, you're about 87,000 over. And to be honest, I'm not, based on the size of the budget, it's not a big percentage. And you're not necessarily going to spend everything. There's going to be some variables there. So I think it's close enough. What do you think? I mean,
I believe,
if it was 300,000 over, that'd be a little different animal, but.
Sam said he would cover that.
Okay, so Sam will take care of that. 3,648,817. Yes, because that's where the money's coming from. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, not really too bad overall, to be honest.
What's the total?
The grand total is $3,648,817.
You could move one of the larger line items, you have like the 84,000 in gas, oil, and food, something like that, back to the county general. You don't have to put more.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we can't put any more on the general, so.
So you guys just can't spend $87,000.
There you go.
As long as nobody bills us for that, we'll be fine.
Yeah. What I would do is go back through these numbers when she has the new sheets, double check everything. And if there's anything that can be fine-tuned, if there's line items that you haven't spent much out of and you're under for the year so far, you need to lower it. You know, if it's something that can be done differently, change it. You know, you just have to do what you have to do to make it work, close that gap.
And reduce the earmark amount also. It's there if you would need it, but.
Yeah.
I'm just, too much has came in and short of an emergency, $87,000 is a large amount over budget. And I don't see how you can over budget.
Yeah, but they do have a cash balance, so, you know, that's good. You have built up a cash balance that was not there previously when this fund was started. So there is cushion there as well, so. That's all I had for the 1170.
We want to load that firearms training. I don't have figures. I mean, I have figures on mine for 2024 on that one, the 1156.
They didn't use it.
Huh?
They
Didn't use it?
And they have a good sized cash balance in there,
Good.
about 92,000.
That was one mountain I stumbled upon, and I
Do what?
asked him about that fund. So he happened to stumble upon that.
Well, let's look at that. So.
Yeah, so I had 29,505 for that one, okay.
Yeah.
Jail housing, 60,000. Nothing really different there.
Yeah. Then there's the K9 fund.
K9, nothing different there.
26,000. Same as last year.
Project income, nothing different. And correctional facility, the same, we have a maintenance line item, but the rest of it is just gonna go into cash for the jail project.
Yeah.
Now, that account also is gonna see an increase. The revenue for that is gonna be $1,017,811.
So what is our cash balance in that one?
In 1233.
Yeah.
It's gonna get an additional 32,000 in revenue compared to this year.
$2,720,522.
Good.
As long as it didn't go down.
Oh, yeah. And we're getting how much this year for that?
We're expecting $1,017,811. So, maintenance, that maintenance line for this year, how's that been? We've been
Fine.
using some of it?
Trying not to.
Okay. But it's there, that's, I mean,
We
there's,
could easily spend all of it today,
okay.
but we're trying not to.
Okay.
Is that it?
I think that covered everything, right?
We're good?
Thank you for your work on that.
You guys.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Hey, you too.
Thanks.
Won't get too hot today.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. I'm ready for fall.
Me too. Dispatch.
Can you take that one? You did fine with it like it is.
Sheila, I just sent him another. Told him to show up here.
Here, sit.
Don't need to be started.
He can do this. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so we're going to jump right in. So yesterday morning, the council had decided on some raises and changes to pay. That's going to include bringing everybody past the midpoint to what we call 75% mark. So folks that are not already at that will get up to that point. For folks that are beyond that, they're going to get at least a 2% increase COLA, so they're not left with nothing, because there are some positions that are already above or beyond that target. We didn't want to leave a zero. So for your position, let's see what that number is. This is under Fund 1222. Appointed pay is going to be $62,824. And then I think you're proposing a new position for training, which is going to be out of this fund, correct?
1222, correct,
Okay,
yeah.
so pause that, because we'll address that in a minute. Going back to the other fund, that's where everybody else's regular wages are at, correct? So 1235 is where the other positions are. The total there is going to be $380,741.
That again, Anton?
$380,741. Now you have an interesting split, because I think the FICA and the PERF is in the other fund. Is that still correct? Is that okay? Okay. Is that because certain things can be spent out of certain funds? There's like a, or is it?
So I can't speak to why it was set up that way. 1222 fund can pay for can pay for regular wages as well. If I'd had more time, I've been on 5 months, like next year, I really want to go through and
Maybe reorganize it. Okay.
everything and pay for as much out of this money we get from the 1222 fund from the state as much as possible. That way we limit our impact on the county. We need to use that money if it's coming in every year.
Sure. Whatever you need to do, I think that would be helpful. As long as, it's simple for the auditor as far as figuring what line items things come from, and
Yeah, I have
you to help keep track.
I have an audit that is due to them every December
Okay.
as well.
Well, and you do have a little bit of time. This is all preliminary, so nothing's final anyway until October, and it's for 25. So if you have time, it's something you want to tackle, we're willing to help reorganize. You know what you have in aggregate. It's just a matter of how it's split out.
Right, correct.
So, but for now, we're going to keep it split the way it has been. Okay, so holiday benefits, we have reconfigured that because when you increase the wages, then that goes up. But 2025 is a non-election year. So there's 12 holidays in that matrix instead of 14. So let me give you that figure. That's going to be $17,573. You're going to see a zigzag year to year because of that change in number of holidays that are there. All right, and then Part-time, it looks like you're maybe proposing some additional capacity there. And we'll get to that. Overtime, also you had an increase request there. So in figuring up FICA and PERF, we're going to take, so for FICA, we're going to take appointed pay, we're going to take the holiday benefits, the overtime, the part-time, and the regular wages from the other fund. And that's going to be $38,337.
Was that FICA and perf?
That's just the FICA.
FICA.
Yeah, $38,337. And then perf is going to be on everything except part-time. So appointed pay, holiday benefits, overtime, and regular wages from the other. And that's $55,007. And then you have, skipping down just to group benefits, since we're talking employees, you've got the position you're in, and you've got 10 full-time positions currently. So that's 11 total that would qualify for the health benefit, right? So 11 times $9,015 per employee is $99,165. And that's for group insurance. And that's all I had on the current stuff. Polly, you can. Part-time, right now it's at 10, but we're going to talk about that anyway. So. Right, I just kept that the same.
Whenever you're ready, you can go through the other line items if you want to discuss those.
So last council meeting, we moved some money over for equipment. Due to some equipment upgrades that are needed, we need to replace things before they actually die on us.
The computer equipment.
Computers, yes, the server, but, so equipment, there are certain things that the 1222 fund can pay for and certain things that they can't. So.
Put a dollar amount in there.
Yeah, so I put, for next year's budget, I put 12,000 in there.
In the 1222?
1222, correct.
Okay. So you put 12,000 in there?
Correct. For training, I left training the same.
What about liability insurance? There's nothing in there? Do we,
It's not been in there.
okay,
It's just been a part of the commissioner's
okay.
total. Same with workman's comp. Those have never been in here.
Okay.
So
So why do we put them in everybody else's but not in?
I think at the time when these were created, we had started the new PSAP tax.
Mhm.
And when you figured the revenue that we get from the state and the revenue through that tax, we had a total we had to work with. And I suspect that those were just kept part of
Because
the,
it wasn't
because it originally was
enough,
part of the sheriff's department.
That, you're exactly right. When
So-
we separated 911 to its own identity, we didn't move any of that. We just
Okay.
kept it where it was at.
And it's, you
But I
know,
mean,
it's preference
those-
of how you
it's
want to
being
do
paid
it.
somewhere, right?
Yeah, hopefully it's being paid somewhere,
Well, I mean,
but, yeah.
Is it budgeted
Um,
somewhere is what
I
I'm
think
like-
so, yeah, but, you know, even this may still be limited if you think, so is the revenue we get from the state, is that still 288,000 or close to it?
Correct.
And then we know from the lit, you're gonna get, the new amount for 25, by the way, is gonna be 508,906.
That's an increase of,
It's an additional 16,000 over the current projection. 288,000, okay, so that's, it's almost, it's pretty much $800,000 if you figure the two of those. And at the moment, the total projections are coming in at 916 between the two funds here on whatever. So we definitely are over. We do have cash balances, so that's, I think, helpful, but that's going to be a challenge, make that work, just based on some of these costs. What are the cash balances of both of those funds? When does the state refigure the, kind of the hold harmless distribution, that 288?
It
Is
only
that,
stays the same.
so it's not due for any recalibration
No.
or anything?
It was based
That kind of stinks.
on the 117 PSAPs in the
Okay.
state. The distribution was based on the call volume and the population at the time. But it's my understanding that that number will never go up.
Okay, okay.
The cash balance on 12/22 is $270,365.54.
Okay, and 1235?
Is 456,549.
Okay.
what was that again, Nicole?
What was the second?
456,549.
Thank you.
So I think that's everything for 1222.
Right, so we had contract services was a little bit higher, 50,000 for that.
And that was solely for the increase because of the hyper reach, or I mean, sorry,
The new
total
program.
response,
Okay.
and also the hyper reach.
And I had in digital, J&K, power phone, IoT, are those all kind of wrapped, those are still valid contractors and, okay. And it was Central Square, is that right? Or what was the, okay. Just make sure my list is up to date here. And, so training, you were proposing adding a training director or an individual that could be in that role. And you have some training in here for the cost of that. You mentioned with kind of a younger group or think of years of service being fairly low, that you really have a training gap that you want to try to make up. And what, do you want to tackle the training request next?
Sure.
Since that's on here?
So the training on this line item is to help pay for training classes. Now, the state does pay for a lot of training for the dispatchers, which is very, very helpful. But that's just to cover anything that they wouldn't cover.
You're looking more for an assistant director.
Correct, so.
Yeah.
Now, separately, the position that's gonna help train my 8 new dispatchers.
Right.
It's gonna serve as like an assistant director position, and also a training position,
Okay.
so. I've given you the job description for it already, rough draft, and it's something that's desperately needed right now. They would be a working training supervisor on the floor, and then in my absence, if I'm out, they would assume supervision of the center and be in charge of the center.
They might have to work a shift, they might
Right.
have to fill in somewhere and
Right.
do reports,
It
whatever.
would be a,
Okay.
And council, so we can reflect back when we lost Kathleen due to illness, was out, we had no second in command and things were a chaotic mess. All the other departments, highway, sheriff, EMS, they all have a assistant, highway assistant, superintendent, chief deputy. Chris has a second. So this department doesn't have that. So it's something that seriously needs to be looked at. Not jumping ahead, the cash balances are pretty strong here, so.
So you in your proposal had said that you would recalibrate the other position count, and can you run through that again just so everybody's on
sure.
the same page?
So, as Anton stated, I have 10 positions that I'm allotted. I would not fill that 10th position and use the funding from that and then supplement the difference from the 1222 fund, the state fund. So it would be at no cost extra to the county for that assistant director trainer position. We also discussed at the last council meeting the wage study. So I don't think we needed to pay someone to do that. The state has already done that, and I was able to get that information from the state, and I took an average, and actually the wage that I had proposed for that position came in under what the median average is across the state.
And what was that rate?
24 an hour.
24. Okay. So you would reduce one of the full-time dispatchers. So we would have that cost come back or saved. Then you're turning around, you're going to replace that with this one. Now, it is higher pay, so there's going to be a cost to that.
Which I would supplement.
And then the benefits would be the same because we already pay for that number of positions. So really, the only difference in cost is going to be between the pay. You know, one's
Right.
24 versus 18 or whatever. So that would be the additional cost involved, which is not bad. It's just a recalibration of the positions, so.
And I checked with the executive director of the state 911 fund just to double check and make sure I
They
could do
could do
this.
that?
And he
Yes.
said absolutely no problem at all.
So I think what you're wanting to make is this new individual second in command. Most offices, if we have a second in command, as a chief deputy, would you, is that what your job title is described for that, with him at?
I think it's assistant director.
Assistant director, yeah.
So kind of the same,
This-
yeah,
So
same.
in our other offices, it's based on 85% of the elected officials' pay, with the chief deputy. What are you coming in at on this individual's pay?
So I'm coming in at $24 an hour, and they would be a non-exempt position because they would be a working like shift, have to do the 12-hour shifts.
And that individual would know that they're second in command. You're not there.
Correct.
They're, one of you or that individual covers that department.
Correct.
Is it?
Yeah, it's $1,000 off.
I don't know, if you the bigger duty, fine, and go on.
So the average across the state for that assistant director position is 2635.
But you're not asking that.
No, I'm asking 24. But it's important that they're non-exempt at that point.
Yeah.
That they would
Still
be
have
eligible for
overtime, vacation, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and 40-hour-a-week schedule, normal,
Yeah.
okay. They'd also have holiday pay because they'd be non-exempt, so there'd be that element in there.
Yeah, I've run those numbers. I know you're probably running them too.
Oh, yes.
How many hours a week does your people work?
It fluctuates because they're the 12-hour shifts, so the way the breakdown works is 1 week they're working 5 12-hour shifts, and the next week they work 2. And the pay periods are, the way they pay periods fall. So it's basically 2 on, 2 off, 3 on. It rotates like that.
All right, so the total cost for the swap, if you will, including FICA, perf, a little bit of the holiday pay difference, it's $15,251. $15,251.
And Sherry, you'd like to start this individual immediately.
Yes, I need this individual desperately, immediately.
Yeah, so whatever we approve for 25, if there's a need, we can then fast track it or
Okay.
bring it in earlier for the balance of 24,
Okay.
which we know you need.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's an issue with the training. This is a big weakness, is the training and that situation. You're relying on your others who are already underpaid, overworked to fill in a training gap. We're fairly limited on wage-related stuff, but as far as position and dedicating and paying someone accordingly, it seems like a training would be a very interesting, good solution there.
And you're not asking for an additional.
It's not an
it's
additional
just
employee, it's
changing
just the
current
rate
position.
and their responsibilities are tweaked.
It takes some pressure off of her to do her administrative duties instead of worrying about training those employees that are,
Right.
fresh off the road, the street, those type of things, so.
Well, my concern was, I'm surprised that there hasn't been already a second in command, a chief deputy, whatever, assistant. It's kind of surprising that we don't have one of those already in that department, but.
Yeah, and I think when it was first started, there was a small increase, given for someone that was an assistant, but that really wasn't structured that way, you know, from a logistical standpoint. It was just simply, it's a title, you get a few more dollars or whatever. But now that the department has kind of grown and it's established itself and there's a process and a flow and protocols, and it's so much different than it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you know, a restructuring would probably be helpful, particularly with the training focus, just my opinion. So.
Sheila, this meeting has been advertised that we can take action in each meeting. Go back.
You can make a motion, but it's still an additional appropriation, so it would have to go to the September 9th meeting, and it'd be October before it can be approved.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion, we go ahead and grant this position for her. She's given us the job description. Sounds like you're in need, and so I make a motion that we grant this and have it advertised so that we can put this in place in the September meeting.
I would like to, you're going to second that?
Yep. Yes. I'm trying to.
I would like to do this as a part of our committed follow-up later today anyway, but I do think it's a good thing we should do. I really do. It's doable. But we already told all of our other departments who've asked for changes that we're going to be doing that at the end of the process after we hear from all the departments today. So I would think it's just fair that we stick with that, but I do think it's a good idea. Yeah, if that makes sense.
So do you want to postpone or vote on that?
And these others that we would adopt afterwards
Or additional people altogether.
would be next year's budget. Is that not true, everybody?
Yes, but
This is something we're dealing with.
But we could roll that up if we decide, yeah, definitely for '05, but then she says she needs it now, then you can then take the action for that as well. Plus, you're going to need the appropriation anyway for
Right.
'24, so that's going to require an advertisement and so on, salary ordinance.
So you'd like to address this evening with the others?
But if you're going to do it early, you're going to obviously have it there in '25, so you're not going to get rid of it in '25. So you're going to need to take, you know, this is our budget hearings for '25. Let's take our action based on that forward thinking. And then with the need being now, then we can take the separate action to roll that up.
I'll withdraw
if that
my
makes
motion,
sense.
and we'll address it this afternoon.
You just got two different things going on is what's going on, so, yeah. Okay. So I've added that to the list.
Yeah, me too.
Add one full-time assistant director/training position and remove or delete one full-time communications officer.
This is
Can I make a suggestion?
do some overtime,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because they've been working busy.
Council has extra money.
even though you're
in your
limited
line
on the
item
others,
still,
you don't get
still
to
have
pay
$300,000 still over that. Or she go ahead and get somebody immediately started, again, added to the fifth resolution that is pending to pay that line item back from this fund.
Yeah, that's an option to kind of speed up the process.
That keeps her from having to wait for
Yeah.
outcomes.
But would
Keep-
we address that at our regular meeting in September? Or?
We could do that today,
You can do-
yeah.
If you make a motion today to allow her to use your funds with the resolution to repay it, that would speed it up and not make her wait for 2.5 months.
So can you just remember that and we'll incorporate that in? Yeah.
Don't forget that.
I wrote it down.
Commissioner Burton, put that on your list.
You want me to come back this afternoon?
You keep the list. Okay, and one more thing, let me check here. Everything else, was everything else okay with the budget then?
Could you run totals on these?
Yes, let's go back through that real quick. So we did the other wage stuff, but now,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
On behalf of this being a Commissioner Department, when you're talking about those 75%, where does that put their hourly people
Okay.
compared to where they're at today?
So let's take a look at that here.
Because these folks don't see those wage studies, and they need to.
The new rate is pretty much going to be 18 an hour, 17.992 for regular. It was 17.639.
Is that 25% plus the 2 in the COLA?
So the 2570, that's in relation to the targets for the range for that position. Everybody was at the midpoint previously,
Right,
which is
right.
50%, in the middle. We're going to 75. Now,
Plus the COLA.
or the COLA, depending on whichever is greater.
Did you say plus?
Well, I was
It's not
thinking
plus.
It's not plus?
I thought that's what you
It's
said.
one or the other.
I did too.
So the target for that, the 50% midpoint is 17.089. Okay, this is per our study several years ago. The high point is 18.798. So 75% is going to be in the middle, which is pretty much 18.
So if you want that 19, you need to ask for it now, use your cash balance.
So can we revisit the additional funding that I would like to give my folks from my 1222 state account? In addition to this, to bring them up to,
Yeah, that could be if the council wants to do it. I'm not in favor of it because we have a system in place that sets these targets. We haven't given any extra for other positions, and we're trying to keep that consistent. And again, nothing against dispatchers, nothing against that. That's just the system we're following. We're going to do an updated study for next year anyway. So there's going to be new midpoints, and we're going to work toward that same midpoint. And it's probably likely that it will be higher.
So
But for
that's-
this year, we don't have that study. We've not had that
Correct.
done, so.
I have a study from the state on what dispatchers make, and in order to try to slow the attrition rate out of my department, I've got to bring that number up. So that's where I propose that at no cost to the county, I be allowed to give them a little bit extra on top of that
Sure.
to encourage them to stay and get trained and, you know,
Anton,
Yes.
seeing how this is going to be somewhat self-funded, I think the council should take a strong look at it, regardless of your, we wanted to keep some continuity across the board. I fully understand that, but 90 cents, if you do this, if you do the numbers, 90 cents, that's an insult.
Yeah, it's not my decision.
I
want to make that clear.
But the numbers, I'm not saying from you personally.
If a majority wants it, great. I
I
don't
would
particularly
encourage
care,
them.
but I just think,
I would strongly encourage, because,
you know,
if you come back and told me 90 cents was it,
sure.
I'd most likely start hunting something
Well,
else to do.
the problem is they're not the only ones that are seeing this. I mean, and we would love to do more.
Absolutely.
We gave the sheriff department a big shot a couple of years ago, but, we need to look at some of these other departments.
My
And now they
understand-
haven't come, I mean, we brought everybody, they were up at 75%, boom.
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah.
we brought everybody up to that point to make it,
But we have the ability to do this and not affect the taxpayers so much. So,
the money for this raise comes from the state, not the county. Does not affect the county at all.
well, it doesn't affect the county general, correct?
Yeah, it's still county money. It doesn't matter what the source is.
So it comes out of
Everybody has
everybody's
different money.
pocket.
Yeah. It's just, the ability to pay for it is there, which is helpful. And we talked about this yesterday, Commissioner Byrne, about the building department. It's still county money. It doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it's fees, taxes, through a state distribution. highway has fuel tax that's collected through the state and then given to us, and that's, you could say, is state money. If it's really not, it's county money. But we have to look at everything, all funds, all revenue sources in order to figure out how to pay for everything. We also know that at the moment, even with the adjustments we've made and the potential additional position we're adding, or the swap, I should say, as far as operating budget is concerned, is over substantially. So eventually that's going to have to be rectified. How do we make up that loss of, or I should say the additional expense that would be occurring over the year 2, year 3, because the money's going to run out. So how do we rectify that?
The money into that specific account comes in every year, $288,000 a year.
Right,
So it's
288.
self-funded.
So you have 800,000 in revenue total, but our expenses are 930. That's not sustainable. You see where I'm going with that? Doesn't matter where the source is, it's just, and that's just current expenses. So we have to be very mindful of that as well. I mean, we could pull it off for a couple years maybe, or a year, but at what point do you reconcile
Right.
the overspending,
So
essentially?
let's look at this from another angle. The overtime that I'm paying right now is shocking. And it will continue to be that way until these folks get trained, or heaven forbid, I lose somebody else, it's gonna double. I have a dispatcher that works 68 hours of overtime last pay period, in a 2-week pay period. And that, it's gotta continue like that because I have brand new people. And I have to have 2 people staffed in that center at all times.
How many open positions do you have now?
Currently, just the one that we just filled. But
So,
they're
I mean,
brand
so
new.
are you
I've got
full
3
open?
with, I've got one that hasn't started and 2 with 2 weeks on.
You're gonna have a lot that are 0 start,
I've got 2 people on a shift starting in September. One has 4 months on, one has 5 months on.
We get this training personnel or assistant put in there, you can basically cut this overtime budget down by $20,000 and throw that money at these raises and not affect a thing. And that's something that the council needs to look at. You cut down that overtime budget, reduce it, use that money to throw at the hourly rate.
I
Yeah,
cannot
I'm not
use-
sure you shouldn't lower overtime now.
I
mean, I wouldn't
discussed
think
it
you would.
earlier, she doesn't think she'll need that amount if she has the proper people in there.
Because you're gonna be removing a dispatcher position. You're not gaining a trainer or an
Correct.
assistant, you're swapping.
Correct.
So you're still gonna be short. I mean, generally, if you think about manpowers and,
I have 2 on every shift. I have 4 shifts, 2 on every shift. And then the addition, that's 8. And then I have 2 extra positions that act as floaters or a tack shift. So I took away one of the tack shift for the
Got it.
assistant director position.
it's still a big stress on
But without this
manpower.
raise and me getting them up a little bit higher, I stand to lose more. And then we are at critical staffing. To where
Yeah.
I don't even want to finish that sentence. Not to mention the fact that this is not a job that you can sit down and just go to work, right? It takes months of training. It takes months before they're even IDAC certified, which is the law enforcement part of what my dispatchers do. It takes months to even get that certification to be able to actually run people when the deputies call out traffic stops and everything. So I was down to just a few people that had certification.
Have you had a lot of people apply?
Yes, I've had quite a few people apply, but 98% of them were not people that I would hire.
How long does it take them to get the right act?
We have to get certified by the state, so it's send in fingerprints, the background check. It's,
Certain
they
level of
take a
training?
test, yes, certain level of
You get
training.
there, and once you do, you get the certification from the state.
The state, yes.
Do we not give a financial bump for somebody that would get certified?
We
It's
do. We
built into their.
We reorganize
Yeah.
that. They can, depending on what it is, get additional.
Yeah, we worked all that out.
You're not giving it now, or we are?
It's part of their required training for the position, so,
IDAX is, but there are other trainings, Nick, that they can get to help enhance their job that they can get additional pay for. And that, do you have an example that you can, of something beyond the regular that,
Like an EMT certification.
or CPR.
okay,
I just put all my folks through the full CPR class. So they're all hands-on CPR certified.
yeah.
Is
'Cause didn't you
is it
have-
required for the position? No, but is it something everyone should know how to do? Absolutely.
Didn't you have two that were EMT or paramedic or some?
Yeah, I've got one that used to be an RN too.
Ah, okay.
So we're
So,
college
so in that
trained now,
case,
yeah.
yeah, because that's not a normal requirement for the job, but it's awfully helpful.
Right,
So
right.
that would qualify for an additional amount.
But is that in writing, so she knows, she can tell
Oh, yeah.
somebody?
That's what we did a couple meetings ago.
Reach
Yeah.
this level, your pay will go from here to here?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, they're aware of that, yeah.
I
It's
think it was
55.
July meeting, Nick, that we voted on that and had done that. So,
Okay.
yeah. Because it needed overhaul.
Yeah.
And
So once they finish the 5, they can get 55 cents more an hour, the 5
Right.
courses.
when we did that, it basically upped the pay 55 cents. And then, we're up to, it's about $1 difference over the last couple of months overall, what we're talking about
Right.
here, which is, I know you asked for 2, but
Then after
You know?
a year of longevity, they get, are we giving 40
It's
cents?
20 cents per year of service,
20 cents, okay.
every year.
I only have 2 dispatchers that have been here over a year.
Yeah, they don't, a lot of the cost there is not,
Two of the 9.
So what I'm looking at, I've been looking at the compensation system, and when we brought everybody up to the 75%, the dispatchers are comparable with EMTs, right? I mean, of pay-wise is what I'm seeing.
yeah, let me take a look here. EMT.
Because I'm looking at the vacant one, so it wouldn't, on both.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's just a little bit more, but it's pretty
What the
much the
dispatchers
same.
are.
Grandpa,
Right.
you're saying
Yeah,
Dispatchers.
yeah.
that if we address this issue in any other fashion for 911, we would need to go back and address the EMS as well.
I mean-
Not necessarily, but, that's up
Well,
to
I mean,
you.
that's kind of my,
What's the difference in wages?
it's
Well,
the
they
same
are
right now.
classified, they are classified the same. So EMTs are what you call civilian pole B. And
Wait, aren't the jailers in the same classification?
they are.
So in Kathleen, some of Kathleen's notes, is it, the jailers were approved at a rate of, is it 1928?
That is correct. Yeah, the council had voted on that. I did not support that, by the way.
So there
But-
you go, Council.
That was
There's
benefit.
2 other
Yeah.
positions to make them all the same.
What are the
And that
others?
was back in
1928.
2023.
Yes, that's correct.
And that was 12.82% higher rate than the mid-rate. And 2.56% higher than the high-end rate.
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, she has a very good point.
Put them all the same.
This,
We don't have any, I mean, I'm trying to compare apples to apples here. We don't have any vacant jail officers to compare. I mean, of course, the base,
Can we,
I'm not sure what,
1928 for a jailer.
it's what,
Jailers?
1928.
1928.
And then they get, like, if they work night shift, they get a shift differential. And then the education and then all that would also play into it.
But we don't give anything different for a night worker.
Right, and yeah, I was gonna bring up that point too, that they also, on top of this rate, get a night shift differential. My dispatchers work 12-hour shifts overnight.
And they do.
They don't, we don't get anything right now.
Yeah, that was something that was
Can we wish
proposed,
list
Kathleen
Holly?
proposed removing that,
Removing what the shift
the shift differential. So,
Well,
I think if you
she's
look
not
at the
here.
sheriff's department, the 911 and EMS, I believe in some way they're all knitted together.
By dispatch.
By the fact that,
Doesn't go anywhere without it.
and I can't, I appreciate the EMS. And if I need to call the EMS, I want them to be there, but they have to go through 911 to get them to my place if I need them. So I think we need to take care of all you people in some financial way so that you can exist.
All right.
I mean, we all go to the stores as well, and we see every time we go in, something has changed. And I personally, I'm just speaking for myself, I'm one council member, I just believe that's an underpaid. I'd like to see it raised, and if we have to address the 911 and address the EMS, of course, somebody will say, Nick, you're crazy. That might be, but I want to tell you what. My daughter got a job in a health center, just help moving people around and cleaning up messes at $22 an hour. And
The problem is though, Nick, I mean, any kind of private job, I mean, we can't
compete with that.
compete with that. You can, I mean, any of these people, I mean, if they went somewhere else, and I hate that, I wish we could bring everybody up to where they need to be and what they deserve to get, but we're limited. I mean, that's just kind of our,
Can we get to the 1928 number?
I'm gonna let them decide this, because, I wanna be very clear. This is the problem you get when you pick and choose.
Yes,
And this
I agree.
happened 2 years ago.
yeah.
I voted against it.
And none of
And
us
now
are
it's a
perfect.
mess.
Yeah, and none of us are
Right.
perfect, and we make
It is what it
mistakes.
is, so we have to fix the mess. You have a very good point.
Well, the other
Very
side of
good.
that, Anton, too, is your wage study's 5 years old, so
True.
that
Well,
throws
we
another.
know
we know
that,
that.
we know that.
We know that.
I know you know
But
that.
it's got to, we've
Right.
got to have a place to start.
And we want to be consistent. Obviously, there's a problem because there was not consistency a couple years ago, so that's come back to bite.
and the
that's a very
consistency is
good
where the
point.
problem started in the first place.
Right.
It wasn't,
We should have
it was
started-
never in place, and so now it is. My thought is we need to stay with what we said we were going to do. And nobody is making what they should make. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, there are a few, but, I mean, like, our auditor, our treasurer, all of those positions need to be making more.
And we have excellent employees. I mean, excellent. We've got excellent EMTs. We've got excellent dispatchers, jailers. I mean, I would like to see everybody raised to where they deserve, but it's just, I mean,
That's just my thought. I mean, we have something I
But-
think that can work in place, and if we don't stick to it, which we didn't,
yeah,
that
we
went
did.
in.
And that was, when I first came on here, I mean, I didn't see the logic in that, and now I do. I mean, it's
He's
unfortunately.
gonna, Matt had his hand up.
Do what?
Matt had his hand up to say something.
Did you have your hand up, Matt?
I did. I totally get what you guys are doing, but unfortunately, I think the system doesn't work. I get the idea behind it, but there are things that are happening that are outside of control of what you can do with the system that you have. We just put a hiring process, we weren't asking for any raises or anything of the sort, I'm just telling you, we put a hiring process out just last week, the week before, and within 2 days of that, Monroe County put their hiring process
yeah.
out with a new pay scale of $79,000. Then Greene County just yesterday put theirs out for 66, Ellisville's at 64, we're at 52. So we have really good deputies. I know that that's not going to stay because I know they're going to go somewhere else for better benefits and better pay. This is absolutely not an insult to dispatch, and I'm saying this to whoever's listening on YouTube and Alyssa's sitting here. Dispatch is the worst I have seen it in 18 years I've been in this county. And it is because of so many new people with lack of training. I think leaving is a twofold part. They don't get the training that they need, and I think the job's frustrating for them. And there's no incentive to stick around and push through that. So yes, absolutely. I think you just said we have great employees, but we need to keep those great employees because there's no more great employees knocking on the door. If anyone's listening to this that's applied for our department and didn't get the job, I don't mean to be insulting, but it is really, really hard to get an applicant that is even in any way that you want to entertain hiring. We need people that can come in and not just, obviously a perfect solution for us is someone that's certified with experience to come in. We don't get those applicants at all because there's no incentive for them to leave a department they're currently working at and come to ours because they get nothing out of it. So we're getting new people, brand new people. We just had a guy that called in, was talking to the lieutenant, and this is how the process works now. It used to not be this way. He calls and wants to know what kind of extracurricular things do you have? What can you offer me to get me to apply to your department? And we don't have an answer for him. You get to take calls and we give you a paycheck. Well, this department's going to put me through this, and this. Pay me $30,000 more and give me better benefits. Go apply for that department. I don't know what to tell you.
Where do we get the money to do
And
that?
we could up it today, and it wouldn't be enough.
But here's what I'm saying, and that may be the fact of what we're dealing with in new recruits, but that's not what we're dealing with retainment. All right, you have officers, dispatchers, EMTs, paramedics that are here, and they know they can go somewhere else and get paid, but they stay. All right, so they're aware they can go somewhere else, but that gap getting further and further is pushing them away. I've told everybody a conversation before about increasing pay. If Monroe County's $10,000 more than us, we can't compete with that. Well, try to make it less. Try to lessen that gap as much to where that employee thinks, well, I do like my job here. It's close to home. I've got the benefit of being here and knowing what I'm doing. It's just that amount of money isn't worth me leaving and starting again. But at $30,000, guys are ready to pick up shop and move their family. And it's the same thing for dispatch. It's quality of applicants that you're getting, and their ability to be trained. And the training position is absolutely, shouldn't even be a question, it's necessary.
Oh, I agree.
It has to happen, and it needed to happen months ago. Because I think we've probably lost some dispatchers that we probably wouldn't have lost if we would have had a training program in place. And that snowball effects to the rest of us with dispatch. So yeah, I get the system that's in place, but in a perfect world, if other government agencies around us weren't able to fluctuate the way they do, and I blame Indiana State Police for the whole thing because they bumped their pay to a pay scale that's unbelievable, and now that's what everyone's competing with, and those counties and towns that can get closer to that are doing it. And it's leaving us that can't in the dust to basically take everybody's scraps.
I got a question though for you on the state police one.
Yeah.
They're having trouble getting applicants. Tell me why.
Yes, but they are also getting ready to increase their pay again 25%.
So here's the thing.
But I mean, even though they're so much more than everybody else, then why are they still having trouble
They're
getting
having
applicants?
trouble getting applicants because there is a less interest in the field of law enforcement.
That's what,
So you
yeah.
have a small field of people that are interested. Out of that small field of people, you have high caliber employees that are gonna be great police officers. They're the ones looking for that high pay, good benefits. The rest of them, little lower caliber candidates that aren't gonna be as great, they don't have the drive, they're probably not gonna be your, they're not gonna excel. Those are what we end up getting, or even lower than that. Because I'll be honest with you, we've hired people recently in the past several years that we just plain and simple had to take a gamble on. We didn't have a choice, Did we think this person stuck out as, oh, this will be perfect? No, well, there's a 1-year probation period, we gotta put them on, spend the money in uniforms and everything else, to cross our fingers and hope they work out. Because we don't have a choice.
But the main thing of it is, with everything, when we got a certain budget to go by, and we just got so much money.
She's
the
got
main
cash
thing-
balance though.
Pardon?
She's got cash balance
Well,
though.
but there's a lot of people that don't.
That's not her fault. That's
I know,
not,
but
when you
the
call for
main-
an ambulance and there's nobody there qualified to come get you and nobody does, what are you gonna do?
All right, I think I've got maybe a solution. I'm going to throw this out there. Let's see what we can do. So we obviously have established that there's a critical need, because we've heard from Chief Deputy Miller.
He ran this department for 3 months at my request. When we had no director, he stepped in.
He stepped in.
As-
I remember
As
that.
president of the
And he did a
advisory
good
board,
job.
he did
He
exactly.
knows.
And I was there with him. I know that he knows what he's talking about.
So I think that has some weight here in this discussion. I've heard from dispatchers. I get it. We've heard from Sherry. We know there was a mistake, not the best approach perhaps a couple of years ago. We can't redo that. Okay. We know that we're going to do a new study for the next budget year anyway. So we're going to have new numbers. We're going to have new targets based on all that. We're just not ready yet. We don't have that. So my thought is this. What if we allow an adjustment that's off of our normal track, considering this is an emergency, of the difference between where the jailers are now, which they probably shouldn't have been at to begin with, but where they're at now, versus where the EMTs and the communication officers are at now, go halfway. So essentially, we would take the pay up to 18.85 per hour.
And we're doing that for EMTs too?
Correct,
Because
because they're in the same class.
Right.
Okay, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So essentially, we're acknowledging that there's an emergency critical need here. We can't go the full amount, we just can't do that, okay? And I'm not in support of that. But we've got to do something. And if we do it, it has to be the EMTs that go with it, because they're in the same category, they're same class.
Right.
And then next year, when we have the study, we're going to have the new number anyway. And then whatever the new midpoint is, we're going to shoot for that to begin with, and it'll be more consistent. But we have to have an interim stepping stone here. And I think that, I'm willing to go that far. And so if that makes sense, I'm going to make a motion that we make sure that for 2025, the new total between the base and whatever COLA, or the base and the adjustment, that's going to be $18.85 an hour for the positions of communication director, or communication officer, and the EMTs.
So the dispatchers and the EMTs.
Correct.
Brought up.
They would be brought up pretty much halfway to jailer. The other part to that is that the two positions you have you have an IDAX coordinator and an IDAX assistant coordinator. They would also go up proportionally, because they get a little more anyway because of their role, but their base, it would be the equivalent step. Would they be included in that? Because they're basically communications officers. So that's my motion.
We had a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Maddie, did you have something you wanted to say?
I have some, just as an employee, why do you guys want to do another wage study when you can't even bring up the employees to 100% of the one we had from 5 years ago? what would be the point of doing that when you can't even, 100% mark on the wage study from 5 years ago isn't even feasible. So you're just gonna get a wage study and have all these numbers that you can't do anything with. So why spend thousands of dollars that you could just allot to the employees and bring it up even just a little bit more on a wage study that you won't be able to do anything with?
So first of all, $15,000 for a study every 5 years is not going to do anything for wages.
But if you wait for a
Right.
few years,
But the second part of that is not so much the dollars, because we know we can't go to 100%, and we know that we never have enough money. The trick, though, is making sure that the classifications between the positions are correct. The difference between a poll B versus a poll C, or a professional, or those categories, that's the critical part of the study, not the dollar, not the 100% targets and the fact that we don't have money for that, but it's how you interconnect all of the positions based on what their duties and responsibilities are. That's what we've lacked for decades before we did the study. So don't knock the study. You've got to look at the overall structure of it. And there's still value in keeping a system like that, 100%. Most professional organizations do. We need to act like one. We're a multi-million-dollar operation. We need to have those kind of things in place to help guide us so we know. The trick is following it, which we didn't do. And that's what messes things up. We need to get that reset and keep with that moving forward. It's well worth the money, I'll tell you. It
Well,
really
I also
is.
think that study just came at a very rare
It did.
change
COVID hit
in the
and-
world.
Well, not
So-
only COVID, but we were in very bad.
And we had a financial
financial
challenge.
Yeah.
Right, we couldn't do anything out of the
And that
gate.
study came before I
You
could
said
do
for 2
anything
years and
on
did
it.
nothing on it.
We couldn't.
So,
Yeah.
we couldn't do
I
anything
support
on it.
everything.
Well, and the other thing
Before us
is,
here right now.
that study
Yeah.
changes by a percentage. Maybe the next study, we can watch the percentage changes. This one, 10% every year, it could have been something else, but the study may change every year, and then we need to just keep track of the differences.
We have to.
It should have been 5%, it should have been 5%.
And that's what it does. Because Maddie, I totally agree with you. For the first 2 years, I thought, why are we even doing this? Because we can't do it? But it gives you a goal. It gives you something in black and white that you can look at and say, you know, we have a dream that everybody can be paid what they're worth and what they should be making. But this is a goal. I mean, it's actually something that I feel now that I can look at and go, oh, God, you know, we have a lot to do.
Well, and to me,
To get
I
them
mean-
for, and it's something you can actually see.
Like
You
Anton
know?
said, the classifications here are very, I mean, it's very helpful to see, you're comparing apples to apples.
That's the
instead
number
of
one part.
Apples to oranges, so, yeah.
Yes. Did we say that jailers made $19.27 an hour? That's their base pay?
1928.
$19.28? That's jailers. Okay. Our EMT, they're not making that.
Nope.
It-
Okay. And our
The
911's not making.
1885 would be the midway between
I'm
what they're doing.
taking the new number for jailers, the new number, not this year's number, but next year's.
But why wouldn't EMT or 911 people be just as deserving of 1927?
Nick, I am coming up with a middle ground here. I'm trying to come up with a solution that bridges us into 25.
I appreciate that, but I think we're a little short.
Well, if you want to amend the motion, do it, but I'm making the motion
Well, we
and it
got a
has been
motion and a
seconded.
second.
If you want to amend it, you're welcome to do
I'm
that.
okay.
All
I'm okay
right.
with the 1880.
No, Chris has a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris.
What's that do between, for the gap between the EMTs and the paramedics?
Well,
Yeah, and there we go again.
Narrowing that down.
we understand, but we have an emergent situation we're trying to solve here. Really.
I have a question. Will the new employees, the new hires, will they not stay until
Narrowing that gap.
the beginning of the year?
Next year, we're going to do a new study.
I mean, like
anyway.
3 months, 4 months?
So we'll be able to
How much would that be, make a difference between your EMTs and what your paramedics?
They have,
paramedic.
I mean, how,
everybody I have right now plans on
22
staying if
and
they
the,
can.
Okay.
and the,
If they can.
So you're gonna get
So
$3.
$3 and some change.
oh, well, yeah.
About paramedics and EMTs. Talking 3 months, 4 months training versus 2 years training.
This is temporary. It's an emergency situation. We're gonna do a new study anyway. We have to come up with a solution. Do you want to dial it back? Do you want it $18.50 an hour? I mean, we got to pick a number, folks, and make a solution here. And unfortunately, no one is going to ever, not everybody's going to like it. And I'm sure it's not everything that they asked for either. So if everybody's against it, that's great. We've done good, okay? But we've got to do something, really.
Could we revisit the paramedic numbers?
I'm not in favor of changing any.
I know.
This-
Not
The
now,
commissioners
but I
support
mean.
what you're doing,
Okay.
Anton, just so you know.
Yeah. I'm coming up with solutions here to move this forward,
Yeah.
because folks,
I'm good with
we've
You've done
got
good.
to get this taken care of. It's more than I wanted. You know that I was against it anyway, but I'm telling you, we got to have a solution here.
It's not what I wanted,
So,
but I second it, and I'm ready for a vote.
there you go. There you go.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you,
I
council.
I don't think.
But thank you.
You need to tell her her budget.
Yeah, we need to do. we're
Let's-
doing- yes,
Okay. What I suggest we do is we're going to need a lot of time to digest that. So let's do those numbers for later. Because we're going to have to redo EMS's budget, we're going to have to redo that figure as well. So
So is it
Would you
18?
want her to come back at some point to go through this?
we can do it
We were gonna
internally.
revisit
but-
the trainer,
Yeah, we're going to revisit the trainer anyway.
so.
Yeah.
We're ready for a break. Yeah, we're taking a break, recess.
I'll be right back.
Amy, right.
What he's doing, when I was actually gonna use my laser suit, and the guy that ran,
All right, we are,
Attention, order in the court.
do what?
Yeah.
He can't hear.
All right, so surveyor doesn't have a lot on the budget. Elected official pay should be $28,800.
Hold the phone. Okay.
28,800. And you're not a licensed surveyor?
No.
Correct, so this reflects non-licensed pay. If Owen County does have a licensed surveyor, the law states that we have to pay 50% more towards the salary. So this is non-rates, okay? FICA is 2,203. PERF, 3,226. And then you had the same travel mileage of 500. The total is 34,729.
28, 52,
2203?
Oops, 2, 3, and then 2, 2, 2, 6.
3226? 34,729 is the total. Okay. And then corner perpetuation, we actually already did that yesterday because we put in that 20% of the building department admin position. So we figured that it looked to be about the same, 8,633. And then 660 and 967. I think we already had those numbers in there, right? Let me double check that real quick here. Let's double check it.
8633, 660, 967, and 260.
One moment. Okay, yeah, that's not been updated. So let's go back to. All right, so it should be for regular, or I should, appointed pay, 9,873. FICA, 755. PERF, 1106. The total is 11,734.
And Don,
9873,
Mhm.
750.
we're looking at appointed pay.
1106.
This is under
Yeah.
the surveyor's corner.
Yeah, surveyors cornerstone
Is that
fund.
what
That's 20% of the building planning GIS position.
Okay,
The other 80% is in the building department's budget.
okay.
Or rather, I should say, this is 20% reimbursement of that back to the building department, or however, whatever method is being used for that revenue. But this is the source of that.
But we put it under appointed pay then.
Yeah, because that matches up with the line item in the building department. It's appointed pay line item, so. It's not, the one thing I want to make sure is clear is we're not adding this amount and the amount that appears in the building department budget. You don't add the two. This is just the source of revenue to offset 20% of that cost, if that makes sense.
So we moved this over, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's been a little while. The prior surveyor had offered this, and it's eligible to use. As long as the revenue is good, then it works, it helps. So, helps the building department. That's all I had for surveyor.
think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good one. You too.
So what's
Coroner.
next? What do we have next? Coroner? Coroner.
Sitting there waiting.
The coroner.
Good morning, council.
Good morning.
How are you two doing?
Doing well.
Did you bring the barbecue with you? It's close to lunchtime. So
Yeah.
we're going to jump right in on pay for the coroner's position. Elected official pay is going to be $28,969. And then it looks like, before we get into the FICA and the PERF, we need to look at your requests for part-time and the regular salary, which would be your chief deputy at that
Right.
point. So I'll let you jump in on that.
Okay, so just a question with the 28, that is 75% of the midpoint for that position then?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
We had originally requested 6,000 chief deputy pay. The agreement that we had last year with Stan's pay was that he had that base salary, and then he also came out of line 12500 up to 20 cases. So you were looking at 20 cases at 200, made 4,000, his salary 4,000, made for an $8,000 salary. I think it's fair to say that if my elected pay is going up, we should probably try to do something to help him out too, because I brought some charts, but we're pulling all of days, every day, Monday through Friday, it's the two of us, and we have the deputies running calls. So what I had initially put in for part-time in 12500 was 17,358. That's something that can be negotiable based on how we handle his salary, since really we're just going to need the part-time pay to cover my night shifters and
For
my
more
weekend warriors.
fill-in where
Yes,
needed,
correct.
that kind of thing. It used to be, and this has been a little bit of a transition over the years, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, we went from a very heavy reliance on just per case, you know, fill-in type stuff, and it's like we've been shifting now to a more regular schedule that you two would take care of, and then whatever's left would be the fill-in. And if that's still the direction that, the general direction that people agree that this should be heading, then I would expect a reduction in the part-time
Correct.
part as a result, because you're getting paid more,
Yeah.
and you have a chief deputy that's getting a dedicated amount for their work. So is that still the direction that we think that should head, and to what degree as far as the budget and the amounts to put in for like part-time versus regular salary?
So I,
Is that what you think, that's the way to head this, goes that
Talking to me? I believe so, because the problem we're running into is staffing. Like everybody else, you can't pay staff people to be on call and not give them some kind of pay, and it makes it very difficult to have people available. Then you're juggling, being in the coroner's position, you're juggling, trying to make sure you got somebody to make response, so you're not leaving people out there with, you know, obviously their loved one just laying in a home waiting for you to get available. So it's kind of the way it's going. They did do this previously when I first became coroner, and they felt that the salaries were being paid but weren't getting the money from those people, the work from those people. So that's when we went to paper case. But now the paper case is good, but to make sure those people are available to take those calls is the problem.
it's unrealistic for them to, I mean, they have to work. They have to work full-time jobs. There's no one on a paper case schedule for us that can just stay at home and wait for that $200 to roll around. So what we've kind of come to the conclusion, the two of us, is we're gonna have to hold down day shift because those people are at work. It's gonna have to be us. And then if we have night shift availability, or weekend availability, that's when we kind of
put a little bit more of the load over to the deputies and schedule them for a 12 or a 24-hour shift to be available. We've talked before with me having the food trailer and stuff. There are weekends that I'm not available, so Stan and I alternate days during the week where we're available on 12s and sometimes 24s. I always pull a 24 on Mondays. I always pull a 24 on Wednesdays. He's Tuesday, Thursday. Friday, one of us pulls a 12, and then Friday evening, when everybody's clocked out of their normal day jobs, is when the deputies start pulling that round of cases. And just looking over call by volume of day, we're looking at Saturday does have a significant payload. I mean, we have a lot of calls that go out. I have some of these if you guys want them. The rest of them, however, are usually like between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. I'm just going to go ahead and hand these to you in case you have any other questions.
Actually, 7 to 3.
Yeah, 7 to 3 is when we take the brunt of them. It's just people wake up and find their loved ones deceased a lot of times. So it's typically morning shift right after my school bus route. So on the front, you'll see projects that we've either completed or that we've drafted for 2024. Just showing you that trend in forward motion.
More people die on Wednesday and Saturday.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
I'm glad we're in Thursday.
Yeah, I was running that and I was like, oh, wow.
So
That's
as
a
we
big
sit right now,
significant
council,
difference.
Tuesday, by the way.
Tuesday was like, hardly found
That's the
anybody.
bomb right there,
I was like,
yeah.
nobody.
we currently, as of this morning, are on case 69. And it's the end of August. So we're still kind of tracking that projection we talked about last year where we're going to do about 110 to 120 cases when we finish out the calendar year. What I'm seeing on the part-time line, another thing that I had thought about doing that we just never got around to, and the reason you see that increase was we were discussing retention pay. We don't have enough artifact to give you or enough time to discuss it with you to make that something that happens right now. But we have, looking forward, have considered doing what other counties do, where they offer a few dollars an hour for those individuals to be on call. Of course, it wouldn't affect Stan or myself because we're salaried, but for the deputies, maybe a little more incentive for them to hold down that 24-hour shift because right now they're under really no obligation to stick around. And what ends up happening is, you know, so-and-so goes on fall break and the other person wanted to go too, and now this person's going to go hang out at a party this weekend, and so we've already worked our 60 hours for the week and we're still holding it down through the weekend. So to kind of build on what you said, Anton, the need for the part-time line is decreasing. The need for the two of us holding down day shift is ever increasing. So I would like to see that reflected in Stan's salary. And I think that we have room to negotiate back down more to the numbers we were looking at in 2023 for the part-time line for deputy pay.
So Stan, that position, chief deputy, should at a minimum already be at 6,264 anyway, based on the base and the longevity and all that stuff. So 6264 is kind of our starting point there, and I think 6 was entered, so that's close, a little bit more. And then if you were to keep with the current caseload where we had figured you all are taking care of maybe half the calls on average in a year, so the other half was 60 calls. We had used those figures for 2024. We had projected 60 lead case situations and 15 assistant. And based on the newest amounts for those, we would need about 13,000, don't put that figure in yet, but about 13,000 for the part-time. And in the part-time line item, you have the 17. So are we okay with, if we stick with the 60 projection, are we okay with that number at 13? Or what else are you wanting to do?
So, just back on that regular salary line, so 6264 for Stan is gonna be a reduction from what he received this past year, given the $4,000 given salary and then the 20 cases that he was allowed at our last budget hearing. That would have came out to 8,000. So I don't think we would want to go any lower than that for him. It would be a disservice to him as his work increases.
So his pay for 2024 was 5,820. It's gonna be 6264. So what's going on there? What are we missing?
I'm not sure. I just had it from our notes. It said the adopted budget was 4,000 for chief deputy, and then
I'm still paid.
Well, he gets longevity too.
okay, and then he still is getting paid per case based on last year. So he's still pulling 20 of those cases. He's getting paid out of.
And the per case is
1,250.
different anyway. I'm
Right.
talking the wage.
Okay, so are you comfortable with that?
It
being
was
just the
5820,
salary
it's gonna
line?
need to
If we
be
maintain
9624
the
based on
cases.
longevity and our COLA that
It
we
would be
put in.
easier math if you just did away with the paper case, figure out how many you would figure that'd be and make that the salary and be done with it and not worry about jumping back. and
That
forth.
is an option if you need to make it
Because-
simpler.
Yeah, because, she's having to figure.
That'll help
when I
us
get a
figure
call,
who
when I
else
don't
will be
get a
taking
call.
the
As
paper
long as it's a
case.
set salary, just take that from the part-time and be done with it. Don't have to
So-
worry about counting
I agree.
cases.
Okay, so let's look at that. It's generally 200 a case times 20 cases, is that right? That's a little more advanced, I think it's 4,000. Okay.
Those are small numbers for him.
So the base right now is 4, so you would up it to 8. And then he'd have his longevity and that kind of stuff. So is that something we want to put on our wish list, or is that, how do we want to
I
handle?
mean, if it's coming out of the money, I mean, it's really not adding anything.
Yeah.
So would we
You're taking
reduce the number of
part-time.
cases down to 40, is what you're
Well,
saying?
You're taking from the part-time and adding it to the salary either way, because I'm gonna hit the money one way or the other.
So are you making, you're wanting to set salary instead of per case, or?
Yeah, so what we were looking at last year was,
Lower the caseload then, the number in that part for part-time?
yeah, so for 60 cases, we're looking at 12,000. If we're doing 120 cases projected, that's half. We had just locked him into doing 20 per call cases plus his 4,000 and then plus longevity, which longevity I don't have on this form, so I'm not sure exactly how much.
So if I'm understanding this right, so he would be at a salary, the per case would just be your other part-time
And would need to be
people.
reduced, reflecting that, because we wouldn't need to, so
And they
we're
would just
pulling his
basically
20 from
be
this.
on weekends?
Yes. Weekends and a few night shifts. I mean, of course, there's always, we have conferences that we have to go to on different schedules, so if in the event that we both end up at a conference, we do have people fill in the schedule there. It's not guaranteed that they're gonna get a call. We wanna leave enough in that line that we have backup, because no one wants to or needs to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we need to be able to have the flexibility for our deputies to take the calls, but right now, we were drawing out of a budget last year of 12,750, and out of that 12,750, his calls were coming out. 20 of those calls were coming out of that already.
That's my question, is where to take it from. So we had the 13,000, or that figure,
Right.
is based on 60 lead cases and 15 assistants.
Okay.
So if we are swapping, then we need to take that to 40 lead and 15 assistant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are doing a swap, which I don't think that would necessarily need to be a wish list thing, unless you feel it.
That was our goal, was just to take from one and add to the other, so as to not
So
cause
it's
more
kind of
issues
like
for you.
a net zero.
Kind of, because he's already getting that
Right.
extra anyway.
Right.
Here, he's not gonna get that, it's just gonna be baked into his normal
Right.
salary.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
and it was
So-
about
So
4,000.
then, Stan, you wouldn't take any.
Then I wouldn't get paid per case. No, I'd still take cases. I just wouldn't
You just
get.
wouldn't get
And he's still
paid.
gonna do all of my consulting, because we have consult cases that typically are his that come out of that assistant line, that would no longer be getting paid per
Right.
case. It would just be included in his job description.
All right, so let's do that next. We'll do the part-time, because I have a total for that. We're looking at 40 lead, 15 assistants. So we're going to need 8,925 in that line item. 8925. And I'm going to make.
So then that would put part-time down to
That's what that would be.
Oh, that
8925,
was
yeah.
part-time, okay, got it. I thought that was, all right.
Now we're going to go back to
There we go.
the regular salary part, and if we go to that, we're basically raising the base from 4,000 to 8. There's a little bit of COLA, and then there's the longevity. The grand total would be 10,344.
Yeah, I think that's fine. The base of 8,000, you said, would be for that position?
Yeah.
10,000.
So there's a little bit of cost there, but, I mean, versus what they were
It'd be my
asking
COLA and
for.
longevity.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
he was gonna have longevity anyway, that's still the same.
Right.
The COLA, there was already a COLA on the lead cases anyway, that just gets amplified in the 4,000, no difference really there.
Sounds fine.
So it should be pretty much a wash for
Yeah.
that, yeah.
That's good.
It does simplify things quite a bit, because that eliminates one whole
Eliminates the
set.
payroll thing that they have
of
to deal
that
with on that
stuff.
stuff.
All right, let's figure out FICA. Now, is FICA, that is figured on the per case stuff when you pay that, or is that just a
They
flat?
get taxes taken out.
So FICA, we want to make sure we're figuring? Okay. So elected official, regular salary, and part-time times 765. So FICA is going to be 3,690. And then is perf coming from just?
Just hers.
Just hers.
Hers, okay. And that's going to be 3,245.
Okay, once again, copy machine lease agreement, does that go back into the, okay. so that'd be
Commissioners?
0.
Okay.
Do you have an autopsy expense this year, Dave? Roughly?
We were,
Yeah, I just figured it.
All right.
I think we,
Autopsies, you actually had a little bit of a lesser amount?
yeah. And it just comes and goes, depends on that, and
Okay.
education and different things. We've had quite a bit this year. We've had some toxicologies that we've had to do above and beyond the normal tox, and obviously we have the homicide that's going on, so that's tagged onto that. But I think we were, what, 30%?
We're hanging tight. 31% of all of our cases are going to autopsies, very similar to last year. To date, for just autopsy, we are at 30,800 in expenditures.
Okay. Yeah,
So about-
that's on target.
And then we also pull the toxicology from that line. So a base toxicology, and the toxicology would only be pulled on a case that went to autopsy, so you're still looking at those 14 autopsy cases so far this year. You'd be looking, if they were all $240, be looking at an additional $3,360 in expenditures from tox. However, we've had some new and emerging drugs in the county that are not typically drawn for in a standard toxicology, that we must either do an expanded toxicology for, which costs more, or even go in deeper and ask for a specific isolate. And those range anywhere from $170 up to sometimes $700 to find the answer. We've had, I think, 3 of those cases this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I were to wager a guess, I would say we're probably at around 5,000 would be more accurate in expenditures for toxicology this year. And then the 30,000 and some change from autopsy.
So 55 is fine.
55 is
so.
is cozy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that gives us room for,
Got it. Looked like a minor adjustment to vehicle, and then we took out the copy machine lease agreement.
okay.
Everything else was
I
the
wonder why
same.
that was there.
What?
The lease agreement on the copy machine, I really didn't have any idea why we even had it.
It
We
used
have-
to be
we
by
should be having
department,
one-
but
Okay.
now it's going to be in the commissioner's budget as one total for
That makes
all
sense.
departments, just to simplot
makes a lot
accounting
of
and
sense.
stuff, yeah. All right. I'm coming up with 122,123. 122, 123. I think we've got a good setup, good adjustment.
I would argue a little more, but I guess that's okay. You're kidding.
Yeah. We have concluded this part of the hearing. All right.
Thank you, council.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Say hi to your dad, Monica. Say hi to your dad.
I will.
So we did the recorder yesterday, so we're ready for the assessor.
Okay.
And the state comptroller can be anytime.
Anytime.
Somebody's watching. Hey, Dusty.
Yeah. Dusty, come on down. You're the next contestant.
Well, come on
You did
up.
that very well.
Yeah?
Okay, so I am keeping track of the Toshibas and leaving them out. I would like to be able to go back and go through all the budgets and make sure we didn't miss anything, plus get into LAO and make sure that we're on target. I don't know if anything's gonna go up, but their contract in November.
You did hear you, Tom.
So-
Oh, that's fantastic. Love it.
I had the old list. I thought we had one more. Forgive me.
So let's jump right in.
All right.
We had done our pay raises. We talked about that earlier, you and I. Elected official pay is increasing and pretty decent. The amount for your part is, let's go into that here. And this includes the level 3 training. I guess the state requires $2,500 to be added in there for level 3 training. Okay.
Well, that's anybody in his office.
Well, there's a matrix.
Different levels.
Depending on whether you're the assessor, the chief deputy assessor, or regular, there's some different
Do you have
amounts.
anybody in your office that's level 3?
No, but we have, everybody will be a level 2.
Right.
But
Yeah, so this includes the level 3 and the pay. The grand total is $58,976. FICA is going to be $45.12. PERF $66.05. And as far as the rest of the budget, do you have the copy machine thing? Is that in printing or is that in reassessment?
that is in printing.
So how much of that printing is for the maintenance agreement that we need to move to the commissioners?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have like paper or ink or?
No.
Okay. So we're going to zero the printing line item, and that's going to be moved to the commissioners. All right, the only other change there was a little more in supplies and a little more in dues and subscriptions.
Yep.
And so I have a total of $73,793. Reassessment. I'm going to add this up. We have a chief deputy, assessor, and I do have level 2 for that individual already kind of figured in here.
Does level 2 pay extra?
It does?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a state mandated thing? or-
Yeah. It is. Can I use this?
It's a state?
State.
Okay.
All right, and then we have 2 regular deputies. The grand total is $121,796.
Now, do you have a chief deputy?
Yes, sir.
One of the level 2s?
Yes.
And let me ask you this, Dusty, by the time 25 comes around, will one of your deputies, Ashley, will she be a level 2 or is she
She'll
already?
be at least a level 1.
Okay, so at some point
By
mid-year.
time January 1 of 25. She'll be a level 2 next year. at some
Well, let's
point.
go ahead and put that in here so our number is kind of correct. I had 1 at the moment. but
Right.
Let's put that at 2, and then we're not under budgeting, if that's okay. Okay. All right, so it's 122,296. All right, and then FICA is going to be 9356. Perf, 13,697. Now,
Group insurance needs to be.
yeah, on level 2 staffing, since the pay now is where that's at, we can zero that line item.
Right.
Right? Okay. Because we had to change it because of the State Board of Accounts instead of the
Yep.
separate, yeah,
No,
okay.
that's fine.
Great.
All right, and then we have employees, yours, since you're in the regular budget, is a part of edit for group insurance. So the only positions that apply here are your 3 deputies. And the new amount per employee is $9,015. So that comes out to $27,045. Looks like you lowered vehicle a little bit, lowered travel and per diem, but you put it all into registration and
Yep,
conference.
these conferences are
Yeah.
expensive. We haven't been able to go to all of them. It just
And that's
is what
important.
It is.
And
I
then-
would like to be able to go to both of them every year and take a staff every time.
Yeah.
Did you say something about level 2 staffing?
That's going to be 0 because it's now in the pay.
What I thought, so, yeah.
Well, that 8,000 give you the.
Yep, that'll give us 2 people to 2 conferences. And that pretty much is it.
All righty. And you're keeping your contract services, that's for Exsoft, Tyler, Eagle View, and Worrell?
Yep.
Any
Worrell.
other contractors in that
That's it.
mix? Okay. I'm coming up with 440,394.
So your contract services did not rise if you go up?
No. No, one of them's a 4-year term. Eagle View we signed last year, it's a 3-year setup. And Tyler, they're all the same. They didn't change.
So we might
Won't
not
change
see any
next year.
difference for a couple of years. You could say.
Unless something changes, currently, no. But if we change some of the services, maybe. So I'm not gonna say no. I'm sorry?
How's that Eagle working out?
We're still implementing it. The aerials are phenomenal. It's gonna save us a ton. But the sketch inspect that we have is just now being implemented. It took us a while to get all that put together. We received it maybe a month and a half ago, and we're still in training. So it'll take us a couple months to get really into it. Next year, we'll be able to show it. Like, I think it'll save us a ton.
And we match.
I think that's it.
I appreciate
Really
it.
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dusty.
Bye.
I'm gonna go back and watch one TV.
Yeah.
Sorry for being late.
And we are on time. It's 11 o'clock exactly, so.
While we're waiting, do we want to bring in anybody else, or? Not?
Don't forget, you have lunch and tourism.
Oh, we do? I did not know that. Really?
Tourism.
One thing I'll bring up is that generally on wages, when it comes to longevity for your exempt, salaried positions, not elected officials, but like the admins like Chris and so on, is we have, I think, 3 different amounts that are used per year. Because back when it was converted from hourly, for instance, like the jail commander and the chief deputy, theirs is like $416 a year per year of service. But then the folks that were salaried that were on maybe the 35-hour equivalent, they're a slightly lesser amount. I would recommend that we just keep them the same because they're salaried anyway. It doesn't matter how many hours they worked or didn't. And I would recommend we go with that higher amount. That 416 applies to all of your salaried people. That's going to change those a little bit, not a huge amount. But it's going to simplify things for the auditor's office and our scale.
Well, and it doesn't matter, I mean, if they're salaried, it doesn't matter what hour.
We already did that for hourly last year.
Well, and remember longevity, we had made it 20 cents across the board for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take that 20 cents on a 40-hour schedule, that's 416 per year. And that's the highest amount of the group that we're paying. It's just there's a couple of them that aren't getting that because they were at the, let's see here.
When you get a minute here, and I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, they're getting 364 instead of 416. So there's 2 different scales there that are applying towards salary exempt employees. So is that something the council is willing to do? What kind of direction do you want to give on that?
How does it affect the auditor?
Well, any elected officials don't get longevity, so it doesn't affect them. It's only your non-elected salary exempt positions.
How many of those do we have?
Not a lot. We've got, it looks like the 911 director, which wouldn't be a huge impact because she's in year 0, so that wouldn't really affect that. You have your EMS director, your highway superintendent.
There's 3. Okay.
And then there's going to be your chief deputy is already 416. Your jail commander is already 416. And so they're not affected. And then
EMS, EMA,
that's hourly.
Probation,
Nope, she's on a separate scale, yeah, per the state. I think your health officer would probably be affected. But I think that's pretty much it. There's only maybe 4 or so positions that are involved there, and I think we need to clean that up.
$240 a year difference to make it easier for the auditor to do.
Overall,
Oh, yeah.
Prosecutor income before
they're state paid.
State paid.
We need that in the motion.
If you would like to do that, it's
But
making
waiting
them
for
basically
the
salary
state
exempt,
comptroller
non-electeds
is coming
that already
to
get,
visit.
I'll make the motion. Those individuals that are not getting the 416 per year will now get the 416.
I'll second that.
Any other questions on that? All those in favor?
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I had that on my list here.
We want to try and see if the prosecutor can come down.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
See, we can sit here and make those decisions. So here, sometimes, you go over there and
Just on a wage that costs $15,000
That's what
for
I'm saying.
5 years. That's, why, let's talk.
The last one was 50, but they also did job descriptions and all of that, and they wouldn't have to do that
So
again.
it's 15.
Right, Anton, it's 15,000 for the wage study? Is that what you said?
Probably, it's basically a per hour, it's an estimate, it might take them
He was
less.
asking why we did that, the sheriff was, so I just, I don't know. He thought it was 50, and I
No.
said 15.
Wasn't the
We
last?
already did that.
Yeah,
We
the
don't need to
last
do an
one,
overhaul.
right.
This is just an update.
Right.
He said, all you gotta do is pick up the phone. I said, but that's a lot of people picking up the phone, writing different things down.
And everybody's gonna use it to their advantage and pick and choose numbers, that's why we want an independent firm.
Right, right.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Travis said. I mean, he knows that we're wrong.
I know, but
It says
it's
it'll be on this minute.
It's still, like I said, the classifications to me are what is so valuable because we've got to compare like jobs.
Yes, I agree.
Because, I mean, when I first came on, I was the same way. I thought, you know, why do we need this? And da-da-da. And I see a lot of value in it now, even if we can't do the 100%. Right. And it makes it fair across the board. Yeah, right. Exactly. I think we worked
That's
that.
person don't put it where I.
Huh?
If that's something don't put it, it makes it correct.
Yeah.
Just define that.
Yeah. But it wants, like being on there, it's still.
I still would have waited on that,
Me too.
but, well, I was asking, you know, this, talking about. Okay, so these new hires.
Oh, no, that's it. Oh, that might be why she's up here. The comp.
No, I agree.
I know, but you know, I usually dress it for business.
I wanted to say that.
Hey, Maddie.
She's here, so let for HR.
All together?
Yeah, because
There's a sucker, and they're in a basket.
See, that's where we need to have that conversation. Oh, yeah. Billions.
Quit.
Buttercup, I have no problems with that.
I'm eating my beans today.
I think we should just have
I'll be right there. Working with these in the cup. They want more than two. I thought about the seat from that far back.
Well, how are you, Commissioner? Good to see you. In your home courthouse here. We're doing this great.
She'll take some pictures too. Yeah, be sure to get some of that.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure which big meeting you're talking about. Oh, yes, we'll be there. Absolutely, we'll be there. You'll be there too?
I'll be there.
Good, good, good. And, hi. Nice to meet you. Very much.
I'm blessed. Soon what? Amen, sis, amen.
Oh, yes, we're doing great.
Good.
And we are here to serve and support you all in your essential function of taking the tax dollars that we get to
I'm
use.
gonna push you in. They can go to work. So, you're so energetic. Okay, and are there a couple others that?
Yes, we
There are, yeah.
They'll be
Okay,
there.
they'll be coming back.
This is
We'll go ahead.
Shelley Townsend, our county treasurer.
Oh, hello, Shelley.
And Diane Stutson, our.
I just saw you a few weeks ago.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
I'm going next.
Dr. Roberts, Clay County.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was something, that was great.
It's all good.
Diane Stewart, the clerk.
I can get some names.
Reese's over there.
You are?
Go eat two. You can't have them?
Our member of the public?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
They're looking at money.
Nice to meet you. You too, thank you.
And
Right,
this
dude.
is
That's not
the
new
incoming
information.
commissioner.
Oh, okay.
Doctor been telling me that for 40 years.
Yeah.
This is Sam Hobbs.
thank you.
Sam,
Sorry about that.
This is our state comptroller.
So nice to meet you, and I understand you're going to be serving as a commissioner. Unopposed?
Well, we hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how great is it for those who are considering running to be here ahead of time to learn? I did that too, sat in on the budget at the time before I ended up serving.
It's my 15th year, so. I'm sure they're pretty.
Oh, okay, so you know.
So do you want to be done in that experience?